Hello everyone. Welcome to the webinar. This is just I'm just going to do a little bit of a test, bit of housekeeping before we start. I just want to make sure that everyone knows how to use the dashboard on GoToWebinar. I think many of you that I can see on the chat have been on my webinars before, but just in case you haven't, um, if you can just see the chat, or there's a question box. If you can hear me, could you just type yes in the question box, please? That would be really, really helpful. I can see Alexandra. Hey, Alexandra, how are you doing? Becky, Emma, Jacqueline. Who else have we got? Lillian, Margaret, Margot. Hey to everyone. Jackie, hi, hope you're doing great. Haven't spoken for a while. Hope you got back okay after your perfumery class. Let me just have a quick look in the chat box just to see. Is everybody okay? Becky, yes. So actually the thing that I mentioned is the questions box. So if you can, if any questions you've got throughout, please type those in the question box. And what I'm going to do is just a little bit, as I said, a little bit of housekeeping. Thanks. Oh, brilliant. Amanda, Lillian, Margot, Alexandra, you can all hear me. Fabulous. Okay, well, let's get started. While we're waiting for, I can see more people coming on all the time, so I'll just a little bit of navigation. So I think most of you seem to have found the chat box okay. The structure of this webinar today, I'm going to give you loads of content and we're going to do a Q&A at the end as well. We should run for about an hour and a half, and I promise that I won't overrun because yeah, I have done that in the past, and I promise that we won't overrun. Hour and a half and that will be it. So I will get to your questions at the end. So if you have any questions as we're going through the content today, it would be fab if you can just type those in the question box, and then I will make sure that we'll save some time right at the very end to go through and make sure that I answer everyone's questions. So hopefully that will work out great. And I can see loads of people coming on. Who else? We got Kendra. Someone just called D. Not sure who you are, D. Let's have a look. Not sure. Becky. Yep, and a few more. Okay. Well, we'll give them everybody else a few more minutes to get on. And while we're doing that, just a little bit of housekeeping. Now, if I could just, I'm going to give you some really good content here that is going to be I'm going to try and pack quite a lot into this next hour and a half for you. So, what I find that when I'm listening to webinars, there is such a temptation to multitask. And you know what I mean. Have the Facebook chat open, or your Skype chat, or have your phone. If I could just ask you to just for the next hour and a half to really just to like close all your other windows, minimize any distractions, and put your phones out of reach, so that you can really, take notes. If you need to get a glass of water or a pen and paper to take notes, do that now. This is a great time to do that now. And any questions, as I said, type it in the chat box. So if we can do that, and that will keep us nice and alert for the next hour and a half. So you guys have all got a bit of a head start on me. Some of you may know I got off a flight from Miami a couple of days ago. So I'm a little bit out of sync with the rest of the UK. So let's hopefully that will all be cool. All right then, so let's get going. Oh, the other thing, just before I start, do have a worksheet that I'm going to send you afterwards. Now, I didn't want to give you the worksheet beforehand because I really want you to be able to focus on the content and ask as many questions as you can throughout this webinar. But I'll be sending you a little worksheet afterwards. So when the recording of this is done and goes out, we'll send a worksheet out to you as well, so that you can really use that to reinforce the stuff that you'll be learning this evening. So let's get going then. I can see quite a few of you coming on now. So yeah, great. Let's get started. So Before I do that, and I haven't done one of these webinars for a while, but what I would really like to do is get an idea of what type of business you have, because I know that some of you have come from my mailing list, some of you have come from the Luxury Lifestyle Business Group, and some of you who may not have even heard or learned anything from me before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to do anyway, if I can find it here, is launch a poll. Now, I've yeah, okay, so, right, you should have a poll coming up on your screens now. Hopefully you can see that. And if you could just check which one applies to you. This is going to be a great help for me throughout this class to really make sure that I make the content as relevant as I possibly can to you. So I'll just give you a few minutes to do that before I close it down. Okay, so that's looking like we've got 78% fragrance or beauty business. No surprise there then. We've got some other luxury lifestyle businesses, got a few coaching businesses. No, so it looks like so far most of you have got businesses, which is great because that means you're all in the right place. Lovely. Okay, give that a few more seconds. Oh, we've got more people coming on. Oh, I'll leave that open for a little bit then. So while we let that poll, more people do that poll. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm a fragrance and beauty expert, and I also coach business owners in the luxury lifestyle niche. Now, I've been teaching, training, and growing businesses. I've got a couple of businesses that I run. I've been doing that for the last 11 years. But previous to that, my experience within the beauty and fragrance industry. Now, the reason I kind of open this out to luxury lifestyle brands is that really the skills that you need, the challenges that you face, they all kind of, and the way that you market to, whether it's a fragrance business or a beauty business or another type of luxury lifestyle business, they all kind of really come under the same category. So that's why I decided to open it out a bit to you guys too. So right, I'm going to close that poll now. So 67% fragrance and beauty business, 25% coaches, and 8% other luxury lifestyle businesses. Okie doke. Right, I'm going to close that. Thank you so much. That is really, really helpful. Okay, so okay, my slides seem to not be working. Yeah, they do. Brilliant. Okay, so what this webinar is about. So really, as it says in the title, what I'm going to share with you today are the 3 things that you need to focus on today to make money in your business. So pretty straightforward. And before we go into the content, I just wanted to share like 3 things that I always promise to bring to all of my training sessions. Now, those of you that have been on webinars with me before know and have been in and that are in my group. One of the first thing that I always have a policy of is complete transparency when it comes to the information that I share. I don't like holding anything back. One of the things about the sort of luxury business, whether it's fragrance or beauty, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors sometimes, and I really like to share what I know with complete transparency. And what I also want to do is make sure that the content I deliver is relevant to you all. So thank you so much for filling in that poll. That really, really helps. And so please help me along with that as well by typing in the chat or in the questions box just to let me know that what I'm delivering is relevant to you and any questions that you have. And the third standard that I bring to every class that I do, and this class, is continued education. So and as you know, we've only got an hour and a half today, and there's only so much that I can cover in this class. So what I'm also going to do is I promise to let you know a way that you can continue your education with me right at the very end, if that's something that you would like to do. So without further ado, let's get going. So why I decided to do this webinar. Now, in the last 4 years of teaching perfumery classes, I realized that so many of you are business owners, And it wasn't something that I realized when I first started. And having built 2 businesses myself over the last 11 years, I really started to see that your struggles were the same as the ones that I had in the very early days when I built my first business. So after some conversations and running some polls in the Facebook group that I put together, I decided to just take the things that you were asking me really and decided to do a webinar. And what it boils down to really is 3 key things that really helped me turn everything around. And I want to share those with you too. So one of the top things that people shared in the group over the last few weeks is that they wanted help with making money in their business. Now, that's something that I wanted and I really struggled with way back. And really making money in your business can be really easy. And often it only takes a few simple tweaks to what you're currently doing to make a huge difference in your income. Now, it doesn't have to be that hard. And I really know that this to be true is this year alone, I've doubled my income doing exactly the things that I'm going to share with you today. And for those of you that have been seeing me being in the academy this year with other business owners, I've watched loads of other women having phenomenal results and starting from scratch as well. So in new businesses, so I don't know whether those of you that are on the call have brand new businesses or whether you've been going for a while. But, I've been going for, even up to this year, I'd had a pretty successful 4 years, to be honest, in the last 4 years. But at the beginning of this year, I made some changes to what I did in my business, like made some extra tweaks. And that is totally responsible for 2 things. So at the end of last year, and this is not something that I've shared it, with a few people, but it's not something I share massively. But one of my businesses, which is a retail business, and we had almost 85k, that's in UK pounds, of startup debt still. And by April, at the beginning of this year, I'd made enough to completely clear it. So we'd increased our profit in the retail business to completely clear that, and as well as doubling my income in my perfumery business this year. So this stuff really, really does work, but you have to take action and you have to implement. So I'm going to just share those things with you today. So, and I've mentioned this just, briefly, that in 2003, I started a business, and that was the retail business that I have. And in the next 6 years, I did what most of you do, and most small business owners, which is work 24/7 and really struggle to pay the bills. And I really got to the point where the debt was so high and I knew I couldn't do it anymore. And I really wanted to do something fun that I was good at, which is teaching. And teaching what I know. And so I knew a lot about perfumery and skincare. And so I started to do that really just for fun. Because managing the day-to-day staffing of a clothing business is definitely not my zone of genius. So while I was teaching the perfumery for fun, I kind of accidentally grew. In a couple of years, I grew this successful new business. And not only that, but my clothing store also started making money as well the minute I stepped out of it. So a lot to learn, big learning curve there. And now I've got to the place where I've got 2 really profitable businesses, which are both debt free. And as some of you may know, if I've seen the photos that I share when I've been traveling, I've done a lot of traveling this year. And as well as that, I've been making money while I've been doing it. So, and I love teaching you guys, and it makes it even better because I don't have to worry about where the money's coming from. It means I get to do things like this and teach what I love. So what we're going to focus on, what I would really, before we dive into the content, I want to just address a few things. And these are the things that I see business owners, and where I see business owners staying stuck. And this is really just from my own learning over the past years of where I was at in my business and where I kind of realized that I was going wrong. So there are 3 traps, or they're myths really. So the first one that I'm going to share is that thinking that there's a lack of money out there, that nobody's got any money, that you have to cut your prices to get a sale, doing everything yourself to save money. And I used to do that. and I used to do my bookkeeping myself. Up until up until today, I used to do my PowerPoints myself. So hence you've actually got quite shiny looking PowerPoints today. That wasn't so in my last few webinars. Saving money by paying a VA. I, didn't want to pay a VA. Thought I had to save money. And if you listen to the news, you look on Facebook, people are saying, oh, nobody's got any money. The economy is really bad. Everything's in a terrible state. And really, if that is what you focus on, that saying of like what you focus on is what you get. And you are not going to make money in your business if you keep focusing on lack or thinking that there's a lack of money out there. There are people out there buying, Louis Vuitton handbags and really high-end skincare and expensive bottles of fragrance. So, and paying for expensive coaching packages. So forget about focusing on the lack. Start focusing on, and what I'll tell you as we go into the content is what you should be focusing on instead. So I'm not going to give the game away yet. The second thing I see, this is especially this piece here, this next one, and I'm just going to quickly just open my chat just to see if there are any questions coming in, because this next one is really for all of you product-based business owners. Now, what I see a lot of people coming to my classes, they focus on their products first. So they have a great idea and they develop their skincare line or they create their fragrance line because they've had this great idea. And they create their products and then they say, well, now I need to find some customers. Who's going to buy my stuff? Now, for some people, if you hit upon something really original, it may work by accident, and this is where I kind of differentiate between the coaching people and the digital product people and the physical product people, is that if you've got if you're a coach, if you've put together a package, if it doesn't sell, honestly, there's not too much of a worry. You can tweak it. You can really refine your target customer. You can refine your offers. But for those of you who are actually physically producing stuff that costs money to produce, you can waste so much money if you've got no customers who want to buy your products, because you then don't have a business. And this is something that I learned the hard way in my retail business, because we were buying in clothing stock. And then we were focusing on who's going to buy this stuff, like getting more customers, focusing on how we sell the clothing. And what I actually missed is the fact that the people that were coming into the shop didn't really want to spend money on clothing. And so that was when the business started to fail. And it wasn't until we really asked people what they wanted that we then decided to diversify into another area, which was opening a tattoo studio. Now, I know this is completely different to the perfumery and the business that most of you know me for, but actually that is the thing. The minute that we introduced that as an option, despite my original resistance to the whole thing, our profits shot through the roof. So and I learned also my lesson in the perfumery business, and I ask my customers what they want too. So really, really focus on asking your customers what they want, or going out and doing your research beforehand. So, and I know that some of you have got your business, you've all got your businesses up and running. So we're going to go through that in the main content. But going back to how I did that in the perfumery business as well, I've surveyed my mailing list, I've surveyed my audience, and I've asked people what they want. So hence the reason I'm doing this webinar is because I asked you guys what you wanted to learn from me. And so a lot of people have said, yeah, we want business coaching. We want to know how to sell our products. And you like learning online from webinars, which is kind of proof that, you guys are all here today, which is great, which I love doing webinars. Great. I'll do more of them. Do you want to have a private one-day intensive with me? One day where we get to focus one-to-one? No, you don't. I've put those offers out, and honestly, most of my audience, most of my people, if they want private coaching, they want hour sessions, 2-hour sessions via Skype. They don't want to come all the way to London and sit in a room for a whole day. That's not the right model for them, for my customers. Some coaches, some people do. It's great. They love doing those, and their customers love them. I have to learn from that. My audience, you guys seem to like group programs. and live events so that you can learn from each other. So it's all about tweaking what you're doing and really, really, not just focusing on what you want to offer, focus on what your customers want. So the final myth, and this is something that I learned as well right in the early days, is that you have to be perfect and professional in your marketing, and that you should keep your newsletters, your blog posts, and your Facebook posts completely on topic. So the topic of your choosing. So for me, it would be perfumery and content rich, and just really kind of all about the facts. And this was the biggest revelation to me, really, that you don't need to spend hours blogging and creating content. And to get more customers, actually being a real person in front of your audience does make you way more money and gives your customers so much more value. And that was something I learned this year by sharing my travels, sharing my journey, what I was learning. Actually, you know, the feedback I've been getting from my people on my mailing list, people like you guys, many of you have emailed me to say, I'm really inspired by what you're sharing. And I would never have thought of doing that before. So I always thought, no, I have to be professional and, only put out perfume-based content. But if I'd have done that, I wouldn't be doing this webinar now because I would never have known what you wanted. So okay, so I'm just gonna just double check some Q questions just to see if we've got anything coming up in there. Okay, so a few of you are having. So, question from Jackie: to mute your line, you are all muted. So none of you, you're all muted at the moment. So only I'm speaking. What I tend to do is on these webinars, because there are quite a lot of you, I tend to not unmute, and we'll do a Q&A at the end. Just because, I realize that people might have, kids coming in, dogs, offices, out in traffic. So all of you are muted, so you don't need to worry about that at all. So let's get stuck into the content then. And right, well, as I promised, I'm going to share the 3 things that were vital to me to making money in my business. So really what I would suggest is that you get these 3 things down and really make them your sole focus. So those 3 things. So this is what I would really like you to focus on instead. So instead of thinking about the lack and the pricing and the, being perfect in your marketing, really it boils down, this is the 3 things that I've really worked hard on this last few years, often without realizing it actually, that have made the biggest difference in my business. So the first one is mindset. The second is message, and the third is marketing. Now I'm going to go into depth into all of these in the next few slides, but let's just sort of briefly cover them. So mindset. Now the mindset is the thing that throws most people, and they don't even realize. Now I don't want you to think that this is some fluffy woo-woo thing. This is psychology. So can you imagine an athlete who's got the mindset of everyone's better than me, everyone can run faster, I never win. Do you think they'll win the race? No, of course they won't. Mindset is one of the keys to being successful. And you read any biography of any successful business owner, and they always say mindset is the key. So we're going to go into a lot more depth about what those pieces are in your mindset that you need to shift. And some of you may have this down. And one of the things about these three focuses is that if one of these is out, then that can affect your whole income. That can affect your whole business. So you may have the mindset down, but if you don't have the right message, then you may not be making as much as you could. So as I said before, most business owners focus on their product or service rather than their message. But if you look at all of the huge brands out there, we buy because we resonate with their message way more than we do with their product, especially in markets that are high competition. Look at all of the big brands and look at what they're doing, whether it's Apple, whether it's Coca-Cola, and they may not be brands that you love, but look at them and see what their message is and what people are really buying into. And the third thing is your marketing. So if you've got a great mindset and your message is right on, But the key thing, and we do we all market, we all tell people about our products and services, but sometimes we worry, and I know that this has been true for me, that we worry about emailing our mailing list too much or posting too much on Facebook. But the reality is that most people don't see every email and they don't see every post. We may see it and we may be conscious of it, but honestly, everybody's going about their day, everybody's focused on their own stuff, so they don't necessarily see every post. And there are lots of studies that have shown this, but we need to see something at least 3 times often before we take notice. So the key piece that I want to talk to you today about marketing is that consistent marketing is probably the most important of these 3 things. So if you've got a great mindset, you've got a great message, your products are really high quality, but you're not consistent in your marketing. And when I talk about consistency, it's not like, once every blue moon you send a newsletter out, or maybe you don't even send a newsletter, maybe you don't even have a proper mailing list. Now, I thought I was being consistent in my marketing. I might send something out once every couple of weeks, but that really wasn't enough. So consistency is key. So before we get into a bit more detail about each, I want to still make sure that this is really relevant to you. So I've just put together another little poll, and I would love to know which areas, whether it's just one thing or whether it's all, and this will give me a bit of help in, where to spend the most time with you on this today, is what area you feel that you need the most help in. So I'm just going to launch this other little poll. If you bear with me 1 second, so launch, right, that should come up. Okay, so I'll just give you a minute or so to fill that in. And this, because I need to know from you, I don't know automatically which bit you're struggling with. I know that the chances are that if you're on this webinar, you want some help with making more income. But some of you may have everything down. Oh, okay. So this is really interesting. So at the moment, we are 60% need help with your mindset. Oh, 64 message marketing is about third. I'll leave you, while you fill that in, I'm just going to see if I can see if there are any more questions. Okay, and I'm going to just leave it open for a few more seconds, so get clicking if you haven't already. Now, of course, you can click more than one, so if you need help with everything, then click away. Hi, Wesley, welcome. I've just seen you pop up on the chat there. I won't be overrunning today. You'll be pleased to know. But I will answer your question at the end. Okay, right, let's close that poll. So the scores on the doors are 56% of you need help with your mindset, 25% with your message, and 44% with your marketing. So yeah, that's really, really great. So luckily, we're going to dive right in first of all with the mindset piece. So let's get cracking. Sorry, my computer's being a little bit slow here with my slides. I do have to have a bit of a shout out to my sister and my lovely VA, Amanda, for creating these gorgeous slides for me. You definitely wouldn't have got these if it was me scrabbling around doing them myself. Right, okay, so mindset. Now, because we are all in the business of selling to a luxury audience, so whether it's high-end coaching packages or whether it's high-end skincare, fragrance, this is the bit that throws most people and they don't even realize. So the first thing I want to talk about is thinking like a luxury buyer. Now, what does a luxury buyer think? How do they think differently? You need to take yourself out now. This depends, because you may well be, so if you're a buyer of luxury products yourself now, and the chances are that, you know, if you're developing your own skincare lines, if you're selling this type of product, you may well be a luxury buyer yourself, but that's an assumption. It may not necessarily be the case. So if you tend not to spend lots of money on specific products, that, you know, and specifically the products that you're selling, then sometimes it can be very how we say, like, you kind of think that, oh, well, no one's going to pay that much. Who is really going to pay that much for a face cream? Who is really going to pay that much for a coaching package? Do people really spend that much on a lipstick or a perfume? So you need to put yourself in the shoes of the luxury buyer. Now, I don't know whether any of you listened to the telesummit that I was part of last week, and I was talking about Coco Chanel and how, you know, she came from a really like poverty-stricken background, but she thought like a luxury buyer. She would put herself in the shoes of her ideal customer. So, you know, it's never about price. And, you know, when we think back to, you know, there's so many stories that we could say about Coco Chanel, but she was, I read, and I need to double check my facts, so don't 100% quote me on this, but I'm sure I read in a book that she was selling dresses at $3,000 back in the late 20s. And so when you think about the equivalent of that today, that was a lot. That was really high. And actually, she also had, her business was really around the time of the Wall Street crash, when, you know, there was a proper recession on. People, you know, didn't have things to eat. And she still persevered, and she still knew that there were people out there that would pay a high amount of money for the things that she was offering. And so it is never, ever about price. People don't buy products, luxury products, based on price. They buy it based on emotion. And so we'll talk about this a bit more in the marketing, but really getting into the mindset of that luxury buyer. What do they want to feel when they buy your product? And it is never about price. You're not like, it's not like you're going to you're not selling bread in the supermarket where people are comparing, or cartons of milk or boxes of eggs. It's a whole, you know, selling to a luxury audience is a whole different ballgame. People do not think, if something really creates a desire and they really want it, its logic goes out of the window. And so it is never about price. So get into that mindset. So the second thing, the second mindset piece is thinking like a CEO, or thinking like the owner of a business owner rather than an employee. Now, some of you may have companies with staff, and some of you may be solo entrepreneurs. Now, this one particularly is a something to focus on if you do not have a team already, or if you are doing lots of things yourself and you're just your own self in your business, which, you know, many of us are to a degree. You know, in my retail business, I have quite a big team, but in my perfumery and coaching business, it's, you know, there's just myself and my VA really, and my other half, Rich, who's my tech guy. You know, it's quite a small team, so it's really, you've got to be really mindful of thinking like a business owner and not an employee. And this means that there are a couple of things that, you know, I want you to really take away from this is taking care of yourself. Now, this comes under mindset, because, you know, if you're in this mindset of I've got to do everything myself, and, you know, I can't afford to pay staff, and, you know, you can easily burn out. And you are your brand, you are your business, and an exhausted and burnt out entrepreneur is no use to anyone, and it is really going to make your income suffer in the long run. And really, like, the biggest thing that I took away this year is really, well, one is, there's a couple of things here. So think about what your time is worth. So as a CEO, as a company owner, think about what your time is worth. And, you know, focusing on money-making activities is really where you should be placing your focus, and not doing things like cleaning your house. Now, up until this year, I was really resistant to getting a cleaner because I was thinking, well, I work from home, so I've got this, free and easy life. I don't have to work too hard, so surely I should be cleaning my own house. And it wasn't until I really thought about like the amount of time, it would take me. This is going to sound so silly, that I really hate cleaning, but I really hate an untidy environment. It really affects me. So I would get to the point where I'd leave it and think, right, okay, I've got to clean the house, and I would hate it so much. It would take me like almost a whole day on a Sunday to clean the house. So when I finally decided that I was going to hire a cleaner, I thought, well, it's obviously going to be really expensive because I'm going to have to pay this person like for hours and hours and hours. And it wasn't until the cleaner came around and said, why have you booked me for 3.5 hours once a week? 2 hours every 2 weeks is absolutely fine. And I'm thinking, how can you possibly clean the house in 2 hours? And she does. It's her thing, it's what she loves to do. And it's, she's a professional at it. There are things that would take me, a click of a finger that would take someone else hours to do. So really focus on the things that are your money-making activities and your zones of genius as well. So bookkeeping is another one that I see entrepreneurs like doing their own books themselves. And, I did this for many, many years in my business. So it was like, well, I can do a spreadsheet. Why should I pay for a bookkeeper? Honestly, it would take me weeks, and I'd put it off and put it off, and then I'd be right up against it, like with the VAT return coming in, and I would just be in such a stress. So not only is it the amount of time that it takes you, it's the amount of brain space it takes up. Because, if you spend 2 hours worrying about all the things that you haven't done because you hate to do them, that's that 2 hours of lack of focus. And you want to be thinking like a CEO, not an employee who's got to do a job that you hate. And, if you've come from an environment where you've been in a job where, you've just sort of killed the time, to get through the day because you really hate doing something, that is not an effective way to run a business. So stepping out of that employee mindset and into the mindset of a business owner is going to be, even that one thing will just change the amount of money you make. And the other thing, actually, this piece is something that when I did, if those of you that are in my Luxury Lifestyle Business Mastermind Facebook group will know that I put a poll up to see the main areas that people are struggling in business. The first one was making money. And I can't remember which order these are in, but the second and the third. One was marketing your business online, which is what we're going. One of the reasons we're going to cover this. And one of them was time management, which, this is a classic. Like, people running your own businesses, we can't manage our own time. It's very, very difficult. When you've got so many ideas, you've got so many things to do. It's actually a tough one. And really the only way, we will talk about this a little bit more in some of the other pieces, but scheduling your time so that you just focus on money-making activities and delegating everything else was one of the key things that really helped me. Now, scheduling your time rather than writing a to-do list and having lists of things that you've got to do, put them in your calendar. Really use something like iCal if you're an Apple person, or Google Calendar. So rather than just scheduling your appointments or your coaching sessions or your business meetings, schedule your tasks. So if you need to write a newsletter, put it in your calendar. If you need to pay a bill, put it in your calendar. Allocate it a time. Now, I know, like, as business owners, we want to have this freedom and we don't want to be tied down to schedules. But honestly, really, this is the key thing. Like, I love to have an empty calendar, but if I've got an empty calendar, I never get anything done. And I'm sure everybody who knows me listening, my sister VA and my partner, they know, like, we have ideas, we go off on tangents. Schedule. Delegate. Now, I know that there are going to be some objections to delegation because it's like, oh, well, I can't afford that yet. Honestly, start small, delegate as much as you possibly can, and focus on the money-making stuff. So even if it is just cleaning your house and doing your spreadsheets, start really, really small. Think about who else can do this. So the other thing about thinking like a CEO and I mentioned this before, you are your brand. So we'll talk a lot about this in the marketing piece, that in today's world, really, it's more about the person behind the brand than the brand itself. So really don't be cheap with yourself. Be sure to invest in yourself. Do things that, really enforce your brand message, but spend wisely as well. So that doesn't mean going out like flinging, hundreds of pounds on things just because you're treating yourself. Really spend wisely and always know where your money is coming in from and where it's going out to. And this is a big one actually. Where when you become first of all, when you become self-employed, you kind of think, oh, I don't know where it's going to come from. And then you start to make a bit of money and your business kind of gets going. And then you feel like you're spending out, but you're not really focusing on it. And this is where I would say actually is an area for delegate things like bookkeeping, but don't abdicate where your money's coming in and going out from. Don't just completely hand over everything to someone else. Really keep an eye on it. Get someone to do your books, yes, but delegate, don't abdicate. And I made this mistake early on. I had a bookkeeper who I just like passed everything over to and completely ignored it. And I didn't know what she was doing, what was coming in, what was going out. And that cost me an awful lot of money in accountants' fees and new bookkeeper hiring further down the line. So that is one to really, really focus on. And thirdly, with the mindset piece is up level your belief system. So really this is about, and there's going to be an exercise for you in the worksheet that I'm going to send out after this. Now, some of you may have done this already. If you've read books like Think and Grow Rich or Conscious Language is another great book to read on this, is that we all have beliefs that we've inherited from our parents growing up, our schooling, and even our friends that we hang around with, our work environment. They don't necessarily serve you. So identifying any beliefs that you have about money and making money. So it could be anything like, money doesn't, I'm just trying to think of some of the ones that I had growing up. Money doesn't grow on trees, which is quite funny really, considering, it's printed on paper. And what else was there? You have to work really hard to make money. And making money is easy as long as you work really hard for it. All of those things that really stop you. Now, luckily, I've always had a really strong belief that I can make money, and I've always known that I can make money. However, I've always equated it with hard work, and it wasn't the last 3-4 years really in creating my accidental perfumery teaching business that I was like, oh, I've made this money and I wasn't even working hard and I wasn't even trying. And so, there is working smart, not hard, but really think about these beliefs are going to be very, very different for all of you. So identify what those beliefs are and then working to break through them. And this is kind of like depending on how deeply seated these are, these can be quite simple to break through, or they can be hard, but it's whatever you need to work on really. So to break through them, think about like writing, and this is on your worksheet, so writing down as many of these limiting beliefs you have about making money in your business or working hard or how creating wealth, and flipping them around. And so like if you've ever heard that saying, if you think you can, you will, if you think you can't, you won't. It's all about rewiring your brain. And again, this is not this fluffy woo-woo stuff. This has been proven. Like the more you kind of, if you've got negative self-talk, if you think, oh, I can't do that, you won't be able to. And I think that I'm just trying to think what something that just popped into my head there just now that I was thinking about last night when I was thinking about the content of doing this webinar. It was a program. Now I'm not 100% sure. I think it was Darren Brown, who is a guy who does shows in the UK. So for any Americans listening, you might not know who Darren Brown is. He's kind of a bit like Paul McKenna, but slightly different. Now he did a program where he asked people if they were lucky. So he had a group of people who'd said, yeah, I'm really lucky, I'm always have great luck. And another group of people who were like, oh no, I'm really unlucky, I never have, nothing good ever happens to me. And throughout the program, he had hidden cameras, and he showed there were a series of activities and a series of things that were presented to each group of people, exactly the same thing. And I can't remember what the outcome was, but one of them was like, win £1,000, phone this number. And all of the people that thought that they were lucky saw all of those opportunities. The people who thought that they were unlucky, they didn't see any of those opportunities. So it's not necessarily about what's real and what's in front of you and whether you believe in luck or not. It's that often, if you're looking for something good, you'll find it. So the belief thing, it's something that I've found to be really, really true. If you believe that your business will make money and you can do it, you will, as long as you put all of the other pieces in place. It's not on its own. It's not like kind of like that thinking, oh well, I'm going to make $1 million, and it will happen. It's not quite that simple. I wish it was, but starting where you're at with really kind of working on your belief system. So mindset piece is huge. So I know that was quite a lot of information. So I'm just going to check in with everybody. So is everybody still there? Type it. So if this is really, if you're finding this really useful, just type yes in the chat box, just so I've got an idea that I'm not, I'm not covering things that you don't want to know. Yeah, great, brilliant, thanks, Margot, Lucy, Jacqueline, brilliant. And some of this I'm sure you've heard before. There's a lot of talk about changing your mindset and thinking like a wealthy person, thinking like a business owner, but it's all about putting it into action. So it's no good to just know it. We do need to implement, and we need those constant reminders as well. So mindset is huge. Okie doke. So how are we doing on time? Wow. This is going quickly. Right, let's see what's next. Oh, there we are. Okay, number two. Number two is all about your message. So the second key piece that is really going to have an impact on your income in your business is your message. Now, I know a few of you said that this wasn't an area of concern, but this is really for those of you that need help with this. So there are a few bits about this. So 3 pieces: about you, about them, and your products. Now, your story about you. Now, this is way more important than you think. And nowadays, and I mentioned this just a little bit earlier, that people, and I didn't know this myself, I thought people wanted to learn perfumery. I thought people just wanted to hear perfume making tips, or about raw materials, or like how to, make skincare products. I didn't know that people wanted to know, where I was going, where I was traveling, what I was learning. I didn't know that people really enjoyed seeing my pictures of my travels, and it was inspiring to them. Who knew? But honestly, people want to know that you're a real, and this is what I really learned, and I got some advice on this as well from people who know about all of this stuff, is that people want to know that you're a real person and that your values are the same as theirs. So for example, me sharing I don't know, like for example, if you've got an organic skincare brand, and your message is all about, healthy eating, and, what you put on in your body and what you put on your body is really, really important. People want to know, people do want to know where you're eating, what kind of food you're buying, as well as about your skincare products, because they are going to resonate with your values. They want to know that your values are the same as theirs. And it's the same with me, with my, with fragrance. I love luxury lifestyle. So actually, the people that are attracted to my business and the perfume industry, it's all, it's not, I'm not saying go and post loads of pictures of, shopping and what have you, but really like get people to, and actually this is really, really important. Don't fake this stuff. This has got to be real. This has got to be you. This has got to be your values. And if you are making anything up, if there are things that you're just thinking, oh, well, I'll just say this because it looks good, or I think people will buy it, don't do that. This is a people will smell it a mile off. People will see through it. So, if there are some things that you think you see other people doing, other business owners, and this is especially relevant to the coaches in the audience. You may see people kind of sharing like high-end lifestyle pieces to inspire their clients. If that's not something that is a value of yours and your audience, then don't just think that you have to do that because someone else is. Really, really, your message should be about you. It should be about your story, why you do what you do. So the reason why you had the idea for this business in the first place, this should take center stage, as this is going to really help clarify like who you should be offering your products to and what you should actually be offering. So again, this is in the worksheet. What is your, think about this. What is your big why? What is the reason that you do what you do? Why did you start your business? And we often get so carried away with the idea of the product or the service that we're offering that we forget to look at the bigger picture. So really like delve deep into that, because that's going to be core to your message. Now, secondly, and this actually honestly does come before the about you, it's about them. So what do your clients want? Who is your ideal customer, and what do they resonate with? So I get asked this a lot, is it really, really important? I think this is one of the questions in the box as well. Is it really important to know who your ideal client is and have like that drilled down? So some of you have done programs where you've done an exercise where you've like described your ideal customer avatar, and you've done everything from, like building a profile of what they eat for dinner, how many kids they've got, what color their nail polish is. Now, if you are and I mentioned this before, if you're in a business where you're coaching, where you've got digital products, this is really easy to tweak. And so for you guys, what I would say is think about your core message, what it is that you believe in, why you do what you do. Share your core message. If you haven't got your ideal client down yet, start sharing your message and see who shows up. Like really just keep talking, keep sharing, keep posting, and then see who resonates, see who comes to you, see who starts buying your packages, see who starts buying your products. Now, the caveat in this is if you are creating physical products, so fragrance, jewelry, art, not so much with art because that's a slightly different market. That is more kind of inspiration led. But if you're doing anything that is physical product and there's some kind of product development outlay, so packaging, product testing, stock stored in your garage or in your front room, I would say with this, you do need to spend a lot more time really working out who your clients are and what they want. Research, survey as many people, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in marketing, but you really do need to use things like SurveyMonkey, use Facebook, create a little focus group within Facebook groups, research, because what you don't want to do is have this amazing idea and then find that nobody wants it. And that is easy to tweak if you're a virtual business and a virtual product. You can tweak your products all day long, like I can with my classes and my coaching offering, but you really need to research if you're going to outlay any money for things like packaging and product development. So that, hopefully that does answer, and you can, people have done it. They've gone with their passion and their inspiration and created something and everybody loves it. But I would say honestly, unless you want to like really, I don't know, potentially, and I'm not saying that you will, but potentially waste a lot of cash, I would do your research before you start laying out for stuff like that. And so this really does lead into the final piece in the message is your products and how they link up. So to create an authentic brand and make money, the product or service that you offer really must enforce your message and resonate with your clients. So it's kind of, this is bringing the two pieces together. So if there's no good having a great idea that really resonates with your message, what you're all about, if nobody wants to buy it, but there's also no point in having a product out there that people want that you don't really care about, that's not important to you. It's finding that balance between the two. And the other thing also is that, this was a quote actually. I can't remember whether it was definitely, it was Joe. I saw Joe Malone do a talk, and she gave the original quote. But um, nobody need, and what she said? She said nobody needs another scented candle. And so, just the same as nobody needs another fragrance, nobody needs another skincare product, and for the coaches there, nobody really needs a life coach. But that doesn't mean that they won't buy your product or your service if they resonate with your message. And so, message is so important. And again, if you didn't hear the Telesummit piece I was part of last week, and if you haven't, what I'll do is when it's all over, I think I'll be able to get hold of the recording anyway. And I think it's still going on, so you can sign up if you want to, and I'll send let me know if you want the link for that, and I can send it to you. But the key person who did this really, really well is Beyonce with her fragrance launch. She had this fragrance line. She launched this fragrance line, Rise, and she created a hashtag that said "I Rise For," and the fragrance. The concept behind it was all about empowerment. And so, nobody needed probably another fragrance. And of course, Beyonce's fans, might have bought it anyway. But because she had this kind of reinforcing her message, and asked the question, what do you rise for? Share this hashtag and post it. It was that of course people, and that all linked back to her fragrance ad on YouTube. That was really reinforcing the message, and people went out and bought the perfume. And some of them may have done anyway, but many of them probably wouldn't. So, if this really, don't feel like, if you're in an area where there's lots of competition, like skincare and fragrance, nobody needs those products, but we all buy them, don't we? Nobody needs another, like in my case, pink lip gloss, but, I seem to have collected quite a few because, I might resonate with the message of a brand that I see, or again, it goes back to emotion. So really, really help to enforce that, what your values are, and engage that customer to really make them feel something, and that's when people buy. That's when people buy luxury goods anyway. Okay, so there are a few questions coming in that are going to be relevant to the next section. So we will skip on to the next section, and if I haven't covered any questions by the end of this third point, I'll cover them at the end. So don't worry, you will get answered. So the final piece, and I'm just noticing time, so PowerPoints are being a little slow with the transition there. Okay, so the third piece is marketing. Now, I know that this is an area where a lot of you are saying that you're struggling. And again, this is an area that you really, really need to focus on with anybody who runs a business, really. And so when we start our businesses, we do it because we love the thing itself. So if you created a skincare line, it's probably the reason that you've done that is because you're really passionate about skincare. You're not especially, probably, I expect, passionate about marketing. But honestly, as a business owner and as the CEO of a company, you need to get really good at marketing. And these days, it's actually, in some ways, it's a lot easier than it used to be. And also, it's a little bit harder as well, because marketing is very, very difficult nowadays to outsource. Now, the reason it's difficult is because people want the real you. And so they don't want to think that some marketing company or somebody else is doing your marketing for you. Because so when I say it's easier, we used to have to hire a PR company, get into pay a lot of money for press ads. Nowadays, all we need to do is get on Twitter. We need to get on Facebook. We need to do a YouTube video. We need to share something on Pinterest. We need to actually get in the pit with the customers and talk to them. So in a lot of ways, social media makes it so easy to do research and ask what people want. And, don't worry if someone's already doing something similar. Your product is going to have a unique twist, because the key thing that people are buying is you. And, honestly, that it sounds like a bit of a cliche, that old saying, people buy people. This has never been truer than it is in today's market. and people always want to know the face behind the brand. So do make sure that, whatever it is you're selling, you're really getting your face out there. You're being the face of your brand. And this is especially relevant. Obviously, if you're coaching, you are your brand anyway. But if you are a skincare or beauty or fragrance business, you may be tempted to just put a picture up online of your soap or your face cream or whatever. No, people want to know the woman or the man behind the brand, what your ideas are, what your values are. And social media is the best place to do that. And so I've got a few tips for you on this. So using social media, one as a research tool. Now, somebody did ask in the questions about this, and I will get to that at the end. But using social media as a research tool, so Facebook is the most amazing. And I know, like, you probably heard me harping on about how great Facebook is for a very long time, but honestly, it is the cheapest way to promote and market your business, and it's also the best and easiest way at the moment to do research for what people want as well. So when you're looking out there and you're thinking about your idea, or you're thinking about creating a new product, think about like what other people are doing as well. If nobody's doing anything remotely like it, then you're either a trailblazer, which can be high risk for a startup, or the chances are that there isn't a market. So doing your research, go look on Facebook, go look on Pinterest, Twitter, Google Plus, just general Google, and see what other people are doing. What would you search for if you were looking for your product, and do your research that way. And so for this piece, really, I just want to talk about three things. So using social media like a marketer, engaging your tribe, so i.e. your customer base or your potential customers, and being consistent. So this goes back to what I shared at the beginning. Now, there are two ways to use social media, like a consumer or like a pro. And we sometimes dismiss things like Facebook, thinking, oh, it's a time drain, it's such a waste of time. All people do is share funny cat videos and moan about their life or the weather or whatever. Those are the people that use Facebook like a consumer. And all of you on this call are business owners. So I would encourage you to think about using social media, especially Facebook, like a professional, like a business owner, like a marketer. And I'm sure you've all seen Facebook ads pop up, sponsored posts. Now, Facebook honestly has got so much they data mine. Nothing is free in this world, and Facebook has never been free. They collect so much data on all of their users that you can either be nervous about it or you can embrace it and think like a marketer. So it has so much data on all of its users, that really it should be your first port of call. Now, even for the luxury market. So I've heard people say, oh, well, my customers aren't on Facebook. And just to share something with you that happened to me this year, I got approached by it was the PA of a Middle Eastern princess who was asking if I would do a private perfumery class for her. And when after a conversation, I said, oh, how did you find me? And she said, oh, I found you on Facebook. So if it's good enough for Middle Eastern princesses, then, I'm sure that there are lots of other people on there too. And at the moment, Facebook has got such amazing targeting. Now, it's changing all the time, but it's got such amazing targeting that if you're going to choose one social media channel to master, I would definitely say make Facebook your first port of call. Now, what I would also say with this is, don't feel like you have to do everything. You don't feel like you've got to like market on Facebook and on Pinterest and on Instagram and on Twitter. They're all very different, and they all have different purposes and different ways of using them. So you wouldn't do the same on Twitter as you would on Instagram, for example, and you wouldn't do the same on Pinterest as you would on Facebook. So choose one channel or two and really get to grips with it and master it. I would say, I'm a bit biased because I've had such great results with Facebook, that I would say make Facebook your first, and then maybe choose one other. So if your business is particularly visual and you've got loads of amazing pictures, then Pinterest is great. I do get a lot of traffic through Pinterest as well. And then Instagram, I use Instagram for like behind the scenes stuff. So if I'm traveling, I'll kind of use Instagram. And I have to say that I'm not an expert on Instagram, and I'm just gonna be learning a bit more about that next week actually. So I will share that with you, what I find out about Instagram. Um, and what I would say about Twitter is that Twitter was instrumental to me really getting back into the industry after an absence. Now, I told you that I'd been out of, well, I didn't tell you on this call, but on other calls I've said that I've been out of the industry for a while. I was really focusing on building my retail business. And then in 2010, I decided, right, I'm going to teach perfumery classes and I'm going to get back into the swing of things. I did that and really established my credibility again after having been completely out of the picture for a long time by engaging with people on Twitter. So I really kind of got into the conversation with other bloggers and really use Twitter in that way. But I would say just pick one that you love and really master it and focus. Don't try and spread yourself too thin. The second piece is giving value and engaging your tribe. Now, your tribe being the people that love you, your raving fans, the people that you really want to serve in your business, the people that are really going to resonate with your product. So, how do you do that? So the easiest way, and I'm sorry, I'm going to sound like a stuck record here, but Facebook, again, is so good at this. Go into groups and help people. My luxury lifestyle business Facebook group, I've got people in there that just pop in and, they're in there and they've given great advice on copy. They've given feedback on people's naming of products. Get in there, add value, help people, inspire people as well. And as a business owner, for example, and this is what I've done with my group, is that, I want people to get talking to each other and feel like they belong to a community. I want to help them. I want to give them value and just, people in that group, I just want it to feel like this nice little kind of networking group, this little family. And so think about ways that you can do that in your business too. So if you've got a particular niche, so maybe you've got a hair care line. So creating a group around, people who have got dry curly hair, for example, and creating something around that and saying, okay, what are your challenges around your hair? Your hair, what are you struggling with? And that actually can give you a really good insight into product creation as well. And I've demonstrated that with this webinar. I wouldn't have created that unless I knew from talking to people in this group that I've created about what they really wanted from me. So really like engage your fans and your group. Get in there and help them. And then the final one is all about being consistent. Now, I did mention this before, that, people don't see every blog post you post. They don't see as much as we think we might be like too much, or we might be posting too much, or always on Facebook or always on Twitter. We do often need to see something many times, 3 at least, if not more, before we really take it in. And so obviously doing this can take up a lot of time. So I don't want you to feel overwhelmed by this. I don't want you to get into that kind of mindset of like, oh, I've got too much to do. I've got to do everything myself. There are lots of scheduling tools out there for social media and things like that. But if you've not done any kind of time management, any kind of scheduling at all, I would go back to that Google Calendar as a first stop. Keep this really simple. You don't need to buy any kind of apps or convoluted software for this. A Google Calendar where you map out when you're going to do your newsletter, when you're going to post to Facebook, when you're going to, post to Instagram. Schedule it yourself, and then eventually what you can do once you hire an assistant or a VA, get that person to schedule it for you so that you've got something to work to. And then, depending how far you get, even then creating the content and sending that to an assistant or a VA and getting them to schedule it for you as well. So one step at a time. So don't make a to-do list, schedule it in your calendar. And this really helps with consistency, because if you've got this recurring appointment in your calendar to write your newsletter, you're far more likely to do it than if it's just on a to-do list. Believe me, I've been there. And, you know, that's not to say that there's not going to be challenges. Sometimes something comes up and you think, oh God, I'm going to have to move it. But at least it's still in your calendar, and at least it's not at the bottom of the pile of your to-do list. So, and I know there are a few questions popping up here, which we will get to, I promise, at the end. Now, the final piece that I wanted to talk about being consistent is creating. Now, this is a little bit more advanced, so I'm not going to go into this in a huge amount of depth. But creating what is called a marketing funnel. Now, this may be a term that is familiar to some of you, but not to others. Now, at its very simplest, what you want to do is think about this. So, creating like a flow chart of where your customer is going to come in from, so where they find you, how they first interact with you, what you're going to offer them, and then the process of, you know, in keeping that customer engaged. So as an example, I'll give you an example of something that I do with my website. I have an opt-in on my karengilbert.co.uk site, where, because I know that a lot of people that come to my site want to make their own products, but they don't necessarily, so the ones who don't have businesses, they don't necessarily know where to buy all the ingredients. Now, I don't have an online shop selling ingredients. So what I do is an opt-in where if they put their name and email address in, they then get sent a resources list. So my recommended list of places to buy perfume materials, bottles, packaging, that kind of thing. So that's giving them value, but it's also getting them into my marketing funnel. So it's getting them onto my mailing list. So many of you will have come through that route. So then the purpose of that is so you then don't just leave them there, like, you know, wallowing, like with no more stuff. You send them regular emails, you send them regular updates, inspiring stuff. But what you can also do is then, you know, keep giving them value. So what I then do after, there's a sequence that I've set up where once they've had the free resource sheet, they then get offered some free online classes talking about perfumery. So it's a 3-part video series that I did. So think about all of these things that you can do to offer value and automate to a degree. So it means that you don't have to keep thinking up, what do I send as value to my list? What do I post on Facebook? So get this little bit of content together. Now, if you are a digital product-based business or a coach, now this is going to be fairly straightforward, because it's, you know, you're giving information, you're teaching stuff, you're coaching people. Now, if you're a product-based business, you may have to brainstorm a little bit more around what is going to be of value. So for those of you in skincare, you know, what do people want? What are the questions that they always ask you? Is your thing about dry skin? So do your products really cater for people with dry, sensitive skin? If so, why not put a little series of email tips together that could help people with that dry skin? So one of the great things you can do to make this really, really easy, think about sending a tip out once a week for a year. Now, when you think about how many weeks in a year, so that's 52 tips. So work on a chunk. So maybe put together, and they can just be one-line tips if you like. You can then schedule them into email software. So if you don't have a mailing list, then that's something you really need to look into. And if you do, your mailing list software should have an auto sequence piece to it, where you can just schedule these tips in so that automatically, without you sending them out, they just get delivered. So if someone signs up to your list, they then get this like weekly tip for the whole year. And doing that at once, that just takes the pressure off. So you can also post these in social media as well. So just making it really easy for you to be consistent, so it doesn't have to be a big chore. So I think those are the final bits. So yes, so that is pretty much, so that's pretty much all that we can fit into this session. Now, I know you've got some questions, and I hope you found it really valuable. So I'm going to go into the Q&A in a bit. So if you have got any other questions, please, this is your opportunity to type them in the chat box now. So anything that you wanted me to cover that you think I might have missed, just type that in now, and I will get to as many of those questions as I can. And so before we go into the Q&A, I really want to share a way that you can continue your education with me, as I promised at the beginning. So for those of you who don't want to stick around for that, then that is the content bit of today finished. And so if you're not sticking around for the Q&A, then I would really, really appreciate if you found this class valuable and you really enjoyed it. Do feel free to share that on Facebook, and if you want to post anything up and tag me in, that will be fabulous too. So those of you that are sticking around, I am going to share this little this new program that I've put together, and then I will go through the questions that are in the chat box just to make sure that I haven't missed anything. Okie doke. So, I did say that I've got a very special little Christmas bonus for you as well. So I'm really excited about this. So, mindset message marketing equals money in your business. So this kind of got me thinking that there's only so much that I could cover in a 1-hour webinar. So I've put together a course which starts in January. So for those of you that are interested in going further, then it's a 4-week group coaching program. So we start in the middle of January, so you've got time to get over Christmas. And it's going to be weekly online content. So there's going to be some learning, there's going to be some downloadable worksheets, and there are also going to be live Q&A calls with me as well. So what we're going to be doing, it's 4 modules. We're going to be diving much, much deeper into all of those things. So the mindset pieces, we're going to be really going through each of you, any issues that you've got with mindset and flipping those around. So you will get lots of one-to-one coaching on the Q&As as well. The second module about your message. So if you're struggling with this, we can really look at your message for your business, how we can hone that, how we can make that better, and improve that part of your marketing funnel. Module 3 is all going to be about marketing. So some of those bits that I mentioned about how to create that marketing funnel, how to use social media, how to use Facebook, and things like paid ads as well, which are really, really great. And then the 4th module is not something that I had time to cover in this webinar, but really talking about the money piece and how you can delegate, what there's this 80-20 rule for business owners, what you should be really focusing on, like really the nitty-gritty of it. And this is going to be different for everyone. And really, you'd be amazed at the amount of business owners that don't even know what a profit and loss statement is. And that, they're seeing all of these myths of the 6- and 7-figure business, people saying, oh, I make 6 figures, 7 figures. And, how much of that really is profit and how much of that is just turnover. So we'll be delving into all of those pieces too. So in addition to that, I'm going to give you a little bit of a bonus, which is also I am going to be doing a live 1-day masterclass event in London. So this is going to be a live in the room. It's going to be recorded as well. So for those of you that really want to come along but can't come to, I would encourage you to come and be in the room, because that's where you're going to get like really, really in-depth coaching on the pieces that you need help with. But I am going to record the event. So for those of you that can't come along, the recording will be available as well. So the total price of this is $9.99 in dollars, but I do have a little bit of a bonus for you as it's Christmas. And really in this program, I want people who have got businesses already. They've got their pieces in place, but they just need some help with tweaking. As I said before, it's really about tweaking. It can be just tiny little tweaks to either your mindset, your message, your marketing, and who are really going to take action and really implement this stuff, because you really, it's all very well learning it, but if you don't put it into action, you're going to still be in the same place. So really want action takers. So as a bit of a reward for anyone who is a quick action taker, and as a thank you for being on this call today, I've got a special Christmas offer for you. So this is for if you do want to take this course, and if you do book by the 22nd of December, I am offering a special price of $6.99. just until the 22nd of December. So you can see a link at the bottom there. So if you know that you want to do this and you are wanting to book and get the special price, then you need to do that by the 22nd of December. So that's that, and I hope that that's a nice little bonus for you. So right, that is the final bit, and I will, how are we doing on time? So we have got 10 minutes left. I am just going to go into the Q&A. So if this is useful for you, any questions, don't forget, type in the chat. I'm literally just going to go through here to make sure that I haven't missed anyone's questions. So Wesley, is it important that I have a detailed profile of my customer, and how detailed should I go, and how do I find this out? I've got my list of 100 questions. Wesley loves the slides. Okay, so Wesley, I think I may have answered that already, because you are thinking of, or you're wanting to create a product-based business. So for you, it is a lot more important to have a detailed profile of your customer than a coach or a digital product provider who is going to be able to tweak it very easily if they get it wrong. So I would say it's a lot more important for you. What I would also say is that, big brands have detailed profiles of their customers. They know everything down to how many kids they have and where they go shopping. So the more product based you are, the more research you need to do. Okay, Lucy, really risk adverse. Due to personal circumstances, I don't want to borrow and incur debt. I know this will really hinder growth, but with my very small budget, I seem paralyzed and don't know what to prioritize. Can I really grow a professional high-end business this way, or am I deluded? Now, Lucy, oh, right, you've posted underneath. I've started a small aromatherapy candle business, but it's a craft business at the moment, and I need refined or better products. I mean, for those of you who are creating products, I mean, the more money that you have to lay out for product development, obviously the more risk there is. Now, if you've done your research and you know that there are people who really, really want to buy your products, then that lessens the risk. So, Lucy, I would say for you, if your budget is really small and you don't want to borrow, and you want to do it organically, then without just getting a business loan or putting money on credit cards or anything like that, I would say that it's even more important for you to do research. Find out what your people want. Go on Facebook, start a group, ask, maybe like if you haven't joined the Luxury Lifestyle Business Mastermind, come in there and ask people what they want. I'm really happy for you to come and ask people in that group what they're looking for, what's missing from the market. Share something about your big why, and do your research. So for you, I would say that to minimize the risk, you've got to have a real no-brainer of an idea. And the only way you can have a no-brainer of an idea is to do your research. So I would say for you, you can do it, but you just need to be really sure before you invest. Okie doke. So thanks for dealing with, oh, right, yeah, so Wesley, I did deal with that one. Aishan, hey Aishan, I haven't seen you for a very long time. What are the research methods that don't cost too much? I would say Facebook, and link that up with SurveyMonkey. So if you go onto SurveyMonkey and you can put together a survey. Survey people, post the links to your survey in Facebook, get engaged, get talking to people in groups. There are so many groups out there that you can join. So depending on what you're trying to create or what you're launching, I would say Facebook is the best way, social media. Now, the other question that you had here is how much can a business owner delegate to social media? Well, now, I would always say that if you're going to delegate everything apart from your social media, honestly, when you start. And the reason that I say that is that social media is social. It kind of does what it says on the tin. People want to engage with the real you. They don't want a faceless brand message just promoting. So Twitter is a really good example of this. The brands that do really well on Twitter are real people, and celebrities as well, actually, real people that engage with the audience. The ones that do really badly are the ones that just promote their own links. So if you're delegating, you need to get, until you find your own voice, it's really important that you do it yourself. So once your message is really strong and your voice, you've got your marketing voice down, and you've got somebody who works alongside you who can be you, who can post in your voice, you can post the way that you would post. You need to keep hold of that yourself. And the same as writing copy. Now, I would say at the beginning, before you write a piece of before you hire a copywriter, you need to be really sure of what you want to say and how you want to say it, that is authentic to you. Once you've got that, it's much easier to delegate those pieces. But people want to engage with you and the real you. So that would be the one piece, the writing copy and the social media, that you hold on to above everything else until you've got it down. So I hope that helps, Aishan. So Wesley, is it a strength to your brand? Hang on, so that is it a strength to is it a strength to brand your product based on your country of origin? What are other product components of a product identity? I mean, it really depends. Again, do your research. You can, if that's what your big why is. If you grew up in I know actually that there are a few people on this call that are doing similar things to that. So if you are really passionate about a particular area that you grew up in, or you visited, that, so as an example, and this is just one that I've made up off the top of my head. So last year I went to New Zealand, and I went to this place called Waiheke Island that is beautiful, and there's a place called the Oyster Inn where we had lovely champagne and oysters. There are beautiful beaches, there's nature. So, for example, if that was the thing that inspired me to create a fragrance line or a skincare line from, using things from New Zealand, using things like Manuka honey, or, other ambergris maybe, and putting it in kind of this packaging that had like this, what's it called, the koru, the fern symbol, that was, that would be a strength, because it is what my big why is. It's the thing that inspired me. I wouldn't just pluck something out of the air just because. And I've seen this a lot with some fragrance brands, where they'll name things after postcodes or whatever. Unlike that, there's no real story. There's no real kind of, I suppose, no real kind of authenticity behind it. So if it's authentic, and if it's what lights you up and inspires you, then yes, it's a strength. It is definitely not a strength just to do it just because. So hopefully that helps. Margot, how do you think all your valuable information would apply to my business of holistic healing? Now, this applies to any business at all, whether you're a service-based, whether you're selling product, whether you're coaching. And actually for you, Margot, in the holistic healing niche, there's a lot of mindset stuff, especially around making money. And I see a lot of people doing really good work who are really helping people that are not making the money that they need to make, that they deserve to make, because they have some mindset pieces. Now, personally, if I wanted to, I'm a person who values personal development. I'm a person who values going for massages and having treatments, and, the holistic piece is really huge for me. So I would spend money on that. Not everybody would. So what you need to do is find your tribe of people that really, that want your services, but the ones that are also prepared to pay you what you're worth. And marketing for you on Facebook is going to be great, because you can do that really, really reasonably. There are so many holistic groups. There are so many healing groups. There are so many coaches and healers out there who are making good money. And there are lots that are not. So the mindset piece, I think, for you, and making sure that you kind of sit and your message resonates with people who value your services, but also are prepared to pay. So if there's anything that you take away from this, just those pieces are going to be key. Joan, how do you arrive at a price for a product? I mean, It really depends, Joan. Honestly, it really, really depends. It's where you're gonna, you look at where you sit in the market. Where do you want to be? What do you want to price it at? Do you want to be among the bargain basement, or do you want to be among the high end luxury? Do you want to be in the middle? It really, really, it really depends, and there's no right or wrong answer to that, honestly. It could be as much as, obviously you need to take your costs into account. That is one thing. But as I've shared on many calls before, and in many of my perfume classes specifically, and in my Facebook group as well, there's a bit of a thread going on in the luxury lifestyle business group. So it might be worth going in and checking that thread out about pricing. There are a couple of business owners that I spoke to fairly recently who wanted to create certified organic, really high quality products. And if you know that they're, really high quality, and you've looked at the labels, you think, oh, they should be a lot more expensive. So if you look at the ingredient listing, you think, well, if you know what you're looking for, you know that what you're doing is getting a real high quality for a bargain price. But what they've both shared with me is that people don't think that they're as good as they actually are because they're too cheap. So you've got to take your costs into account. You've got to make it reasonable. You've got to make it something that your target audience will buy and pay for. But you also need it kind of all needs to line up. You can't be too expensive, but you can't be too cheap. So again, I know that doesn't sound particularly helpful, but it's one of those things that you need to research on as well. So research your market. And as I said before, in this market, it's not about price. Why do people pay like 300? I mean, it's probably even more now. I don't know what the actual price nowadays for creme de la mer face cream. So 350 quid a pot. Now, I personally wouldn't pay £350 for a moisturizer. But there are a lot of people that will. Now, some of you may not pay more than £10 or £15 or £20 for a moisturizer. I bought a moisturizer recently that was £80, and I know how to make the stuff. So, but it's still, I love the product, I love the scent, I love the branding. It's like, oh, I really want to try that. I really want to experience that. So, it's about that marketing thing, that engaging your audience, that thing of, your audience really resonating with your message that will make people buy. So, it's not always about price. So questions. Okay, so Rich, what have you put up here? Oh, right, yeah, delegating. So, so there are ways. So delegating to help. You don't have to hire full-time staff. There are so many websites out there where you can hire someone to do your website for you. You can hire someone to be a VA for you. You don't have to take on a full-time employee to delegate. You can do things ad hoc when you start as well. So, there are people working in different time zones as well that are a lot cheaper than hiring somebody in the US or the UK. So you can get people working for much less than you would if you had an in-house employee as well. So thanks for that, Rich, reminding me of that. What else? So what else? Jacqueline, thinking like a CEO is a revelation. Are there some tips you can give us to help us get us into that mindset when we start the day? For example, meditation or something that we can say to ourselves. The biggest thing is, who else can do this? So when you're about to tackle a task, this was something that was shared with me by a coach this year. Actually, have a post-it note on your screen that says, who else could do this? So when you're doing a job, think about who you can delegate it to. And even if it's not an immediate delegation, even if it's like, oh, well, maybe I need to search for someone next week or next month, just keep that in mind. Also, I'm going to be sending out this worksheet for you as well. So there's going to be a little exercise in there on mindset. So there's a few little exercises that you can do to really, the mindset piece is more about thinking about any negative beliefs you have and flipping them around. And yeah, they're thinking like a business owner. So the key piece, actually, Jacqueline, the other thing that I will share for you here is that if don't do a job that you can pay someone $10 an hour to do. So think about what your time is worth. So there are two levels to that. One level is, are you good at this? Is this in your zone of genius? So for me, like, I would rather pay someone to clean my house, because actually my time I could be spending, rather than cleaning my kitchen, I could be putting together a webinar for you guys, or I could be putting together a new course or a new program. The other thing, so therefore, me cleaning my house is actually that's a really expensive outlay. So rather than paying, my cleaner £20, it's actually probably costing me thousands in the time that it takes me. So there's that. Keep that in mind. And also how long it takes you to do certain things. So for me, bookkeeping, I can do it. And I used to think, well, it will save me money to do it myself. But it takes me twice as long, if not 3 times as long, as my bookkeeper. And actually my PowerPoints. So I think, I'm pretty good with technology. I can knock up a PowerPoint. You guys have seen, those of you that have been on my webinars before, have seen my PowerPoints. They used to take me a whole day, and they weren't even very good. These ones that you've seen today, they're they're amazing. They're gorgeous. And, Amanda put these together in a really short space of time, because I pulled this all together literally today. So yeah, think about how quickly someone else can do something. So it may not cost you as much as you think. So I used to think, well, if it takes me a whole day to do PowerPoints, I'm going to have to hire someone for like a whole day just to do my PowerPoints. And that's not the case, because it's very, very quick for someone who knows what they're doing. So hopefully that is helpful for you, Jackie. And that is, I think we've got 5 minutes over. So Wesley, you've got in under the wire here. Last question. I knew it'd be you with the last word. How do I choose a great business name? Any pointers? And what are the no-nos? Pick one. Pick one and go with it. Don't think too much about it. Caveat to that, if you think about like what your if you've got a long-term plan for your business, there are schools of thought. So Jo Malone, for example, sold to Estee Lauder, and now she doesn't own her own name. If I were creating a company, a fragrance line that I was thinking maybe I might get bought out one day by another company, or get backing or funding or whatever, I probably wouldn't do it in my own name. I'd probably think of a company name or a brand name, because that may be my long-term my long-term aim. If you are if you know that this is something that is completely you and you're never going to sell your business, it's always going to be you and you're a part of it. So if you're a coach, for example, I know, Wesley, this is not relevant to you, but if you're a coach, then people, it makes more sense to have your own name because you are your brand. So I would just say those are the only two caveats. Other than that, just pick one, go with it. Don't overthink it. That's it, really. Okie doke, folks. So that's it. Gosh, 5 minutes over. That's not too. That's good for me. So thank you so much. And if you want to get in on that offer, go for it. And other than that, I will see you. Have a fabulous Christmas and New Year. And I will see you in the Facebook group. And I will see some of you in January. So take care. Bye for now.